Hello, it's Jen from OT Intuition, and this is series three of the Intuitive Living podcast. And I have Dylan Holloway as my first guest. So, this is episode one, series three, which is based on anyone that considers themselves to be LGBTQIA plus and or neurodivergent. So, yeah, Dylan, introduce yourself.
Hi there. Thank you for having me on. As you've said, my name is Dylan Holloway, but some people might know me as the musician Dylan and the Moon. I am a very proud trans man, and I promote being authentic and being living as your most authentic self to bring out the joy in you and inspire other people to do the same.
Yeah, and that fits really well with this whole series is all about that and a lot of what I'm about. So I'm an occupational therapist, but I work very much delivering something called acceptance and commitment therapy. So it's all about learning to accept not just yourself, but things that happen to you or within your life. And yeah, it'd be really interesting to see how that could apply to someone like yourself as well, because I think from just learning about you, it sounds like you've unknowingly been using that as well
Yeah.
through your journey. And yeah,
Yeah,
this is all about being authentic.
yeah, it's interesting you say that because I didn't know that you sort of did that as like in duality, so side by side. And
Yeah,
as you were saying it, I was like, that's such a beautiful thing to be able to like help people with as well. And it reminded me of someone. Many people have said this, but someone said it to me a long time ago that like things don't happen to you, they happen for you. And that like sometimes we think life is happening to us and that there's this thing and we have to perceive it in a negative way because it always has. And don't get me wrong, some things are really, really difficult.
yeah,
But like if you can try and find those little like nuggets of like why it could be happening for you and what you can get out of the situation, you can
yeah.
be able to like turn it into a new perspective. And that's what I think I've tried to do with my life and my experience.
Yeah, yeah. So how, I mean, start from where feels comfortable for you, but like how would you say this journey began for you? Because it's not, I know you identify as a transgender man, but being authentic isn't just about your gender and, sexuality and all of those things. It's holistically the whole of like who you are, isn't it? So
Yeah. So, I mean, the easiest place to start is to go back to the very, very beginning. I was born in a small town in Cornwall called Newquay, which is like fun surf capital of the UK, like great place to grow up. Yeah, amazing.
I'm from Plymouth, so
How
yeah.
are you? Yeah, lovely. So it's like a really nice part of the world. It's a really nice part of the UK, and growing up there was wonderful. Apart from the fact that at about 2, 3, 4 years old, I knew that at the time, this is how I described it. I knew that I was a boy in a girl's body, and that's the only way I could describe it. And I knew it so deeply that I used to say things like that to my parents, like, "Oh, I want to go into the boys' changing room," or like, "These are the boys' clothes." Like, this is what I knew myself to be. And
Yeah,
at that time, this was like in the mid 90s as a child, late 90s, my parents, bless them, they just didn't really know how to understand that. Like they'd never met gay people, they'd never met trans, they didn't even know trans people existed. In that
yeah,
kind of like small closed community, it's just most of the people in Newquay at that time were like straight and white and had 2.5 children. And
yeah,
that was the way it was. So I internalized from a very, very young age, it's not safe for you to be who you are, and you obviously can't say things like that because it's not normal and no one else feels that way, so you need to like tie that down. So
yeah.
I obviously continued to live with that feeling but just try to express myself in different ways, and one of the ways that I found that I could express myself a bit more was through music. So I found some kind of like solace and love and acceptance in writing music, and probably through writing the stories that I couldn't say anymore. So like even in school, like I was in like myself a guy who was fancying girls, and I wanted to write about girls in my music, but to the external world, that was me being a gay woman. So it was like it was a strange. It was strange for everyone to sort of get their heads around. So I would write music so I could say the things that I couldn't say out loud. So um, I basically found a way to express what I was feeling inside through music so I could write the words instead of saying them. And
Mm.
that actually worked really well on the surface for a while, because the next things that happened in my life were really quite cool. Like, I moved to London at 17. I started working with a manager for my songwriting. I then was offered to be in this band called MK1, which, if any of your listeners remember, we were actually on the X Factor in 2012. We were like part of the final 10, did the live shows. We came like 7th that year. We went on tour. And it was kind of wild that we kind of blew up overnight. It was really quite fun, that experience. But at the same time, that was all throughout being this caricature version of myself that I had created as like a mechanism of defense. So now the whole nation saw me as this like kind of like attitudey, bratty kind of like caricature of myself that I had put on.
That's how you view it now. Yeah.
I mean, maybe I'm using the wrong words, because I was actually very kind and fun and cheeky, but I think some people saw me as like kind of like arrogant, and it was mostly a bravado, I think. So I sort of put that on, a couple of years touring, and then started releasing my own music after that, after leaving the band, going back to my roots of like playing guitar and like authentic kind of organic sounds and music, singer-songwriter. Then when I was releasing my own music under my actual name, like at the time I was known as Lottie Holloway, not Dylan Holloway. And then the pandemic happened, and then we were sort of like forced into isolation. And what happened was I was confronted with myself a lot in the mirror, and for the first time in my like life, I'd had to slow down and live very closely with myself. And I realized that the life I was living wasn't authentic, and I was actually quite deeply unhappy, because I was still harboring this lie about myself. And it was the first time. This is kind of what I mean about like life can happen to you or for you. And I know that the pandemic was quite tragic for a lot of people, but for a lot of other people, there were things that came out of it, which almost like, you know, when they compress things so much, it can turn into a diamond. Like, I feel like that happened to me. I had this opportunity to sit with myself and see that I was unhappy, and came out the other side finally discussing with my parents, now that I was older, that I could discuss with them and my family and my friends, this is how I felt. After the pandemic, during and after the pandemic, I went through my transition. And since then, like coming out the other side, I went on to like be the first ever trans person to win a BBC music show. I went to LA and worked with Jason Derulo, and I'm making a documentary about the transition that's being sort of seen all around the world at the moment. I worked with Lewis Capaldi on stage. So it's very like, for me,
can you tell me what your documentary is called as well, and for the listeners?
Yeah, so the documentary is called Tomorrow's Too Late. And it's not actually out yet, as we were sort of discussing before we hit record. It's not out yet, but it will come out later this year. And it starts from the moment I begin taking testosterone, and it covers the first 4 years of my transition, where my voice was changing the most. As a singer, it was really like that was the second part of why it was so difficult for me to transition, because initially it was just the social aspect of it, like what will my family and friends think, and my fans that I had built. But after that, it was, if I go through this, my voice will change. And up until that point, my voice had been the one thing that I thought had created some kind of security and love for me. So it basically tells the story of like how my voice changed and what happened. And then there were moments of such struggle because it felt like it was disappearing. And therefore, my whole identity felt like it was disappearing. So it's called Tomorrow's Too Late. It's touring the film festivals at the moment, but it will hopefully be out later this year. And hopefully maybe I can send you a link to the trailer and you can put it in the description for your audience.
It looks amazing. I really want to watch it. I'm personally really interested in, you know, the whole gender identification sort of journey as well. And I feel like I'm going through it myself. Recently just started using she, they pronouns, just to sort of give a little bit of flexibility, because I just want to give myself some freedom to sort of explore what gender means to me, because I've always had that sort of feeling like you have, a little bit of feeling uncomfortable, like if someone calls me miss, or just certain clothes, and there's so many things that just, you can't describe it, can you? It just feels weird in your body, and I don't know what that means yet, but I want to explore it more.
That's
And
fantastic.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
really good. I know we have really only just met in this context, but I'm really proud of you for doing that and for saying that on such like a sort of like a public platform and sort of speaking about it too. Because it's not easy thinking that, you know, doing something that might hopefully benefit me might disrupt other areas of my life and other people. So like I do think it's beneficial to do that. And I'm happy for you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, it's definitely, and it doesn't, you don't have to make it this big thing. You can just be gentle with yourself, can't you? And
Mhm.
just see where things take you.
Mhm.
I've got another friend who is like non-gender conforming, and that sits right for them. And they just said about like try on different outfits, have try different names, let's just like try it all,
Mhm.
and just sort of, see how you feel
Yeah.
being your different like self. So you've got different layers, so try them all out and see what one fits. But if one doesn't fit, then ultimately you can just be sort of this gender fluid identity, and that's fine too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, who makes the rules? Who said? Who ever said like this is how life has to be and this is how it's constructed and these are the rules? And even if someone did align a set of rules, like what gave you the right to align those set of rules? You know,
Yeah.
so I think it's really great. And we do the same things with, you know, foods and hobbies. Like you try loads of foods. Some people don't like eggs. Some people don't like bananas. Like, but you
Yes.
don't force the people to eat those things. Some people are allergic to them. You wouldn't force them to eat it. And I think it's the same. You know, we should be allowed to explore this like spiritual experience that we're having as humans.
Yeah. So going back to, sorry, you were talking about, so you've started transitioning, you've come out of lockdown.
Mhm.
Yeah, what happened from there?
Yeah, so after coming out of lockdown, then I'd gone through my transition, and it was, I would like to say, very successful. I managed to keep my voice. I managed to train it to the point where, like, I was able to keep my range and actually grow some of the range. And I now look at myself with such kindness and acceptance, and it's like I felt like there was a me emerging through the sort of barrier that I had built in the past. And like every day I used to wake up so excited, running to the mirror, thinking, I'm going to meet more of myself today. And that was a really beautiful experience. Yeah. But one of actually the most magical thing that happened in my transition was going through it allowed me the space to look back at the life that I lived before. And instead of having this kind of like closed anger,
Yeah.
sadness, I looked back at it with such love and compassion. And I was like so grateful that that previous version of me was proud enough and brave enough to bring me to live my truth now. And I do not want to shut that person out of my life because thank God for them. So I have now made it my kind of like statement, my business, and my mission to go through the world embracing all parts of my past and future selves and hopefully empowering other people to be able to do the same. Because, like, without that past version of me, I wouldn't be here today. So I really owe everything to them. And they did the hardest part. You know, they confronted my family and friends and the fans and did all of the struggle, put everything on the line to get me to be here. So now I actually make music with my past self. So I'll make like male and female duets, but they're both me using old archive videos and audio recordings, literally just to demonstrate that you can be connected to all parts of self, and it's probably more freeing for you if you do.
Yeah, my 4-year-old is I think I told you on our chat, yeah, loving, it's actually really helping his learning to see you singing, as Dylan and as your past self, because he's like, well, that's Dylan as a boy and that's Dylan as a girl. And I'm like, well, that was Lottie, wasn't it? So I'm
Yeah.
like, that's Lottie. That was the name that they identified as when they were, identifying as female. Although you didn't truly identify as female, but and now they
Yeah.
are, yeah, identifying as him. And I said, but they've always known that they are he really within, but sometimes it's hard to, to live that life.
Mhm.
Because people are assigned a certain gender at birth. So trying to explain that to a 4-year-old is fun. But yeah, I think seeing your video, it's like something's clicked.
Mhm.
Seeing, the two of you singing together is he's like, you can just see his little brain working it out. It's like, oh, okay. And yeah,
That's really quite cool. So you think it's having sort of like a very he's understanding it at that age.
I think he's starting only very beginning, but he keeps coming up to me and saying, "Can I see the person singing as a girl and singing as a boy?"
Oh,
And I'm
great.
like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." He's loving it.
Yeah.
He's like a complete sponge, so he's not like any other 4-year-old I've ever met.
Yeah.
My wife carried him actually, and he's definitely got her brain and potentially the donors as well, who
Yeah.
we've never met, but
It's
but
great.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really great of you to be doing that as well, because I also do a lot of public speaking, and what my talk is called The Importance of Being You, and I go into like schools and corporate companies and basically talk about why authenticity is fundamental to like the growth of anything, a friendship group or a community or a business. And it always starts with us going back to like the age of 0 to 7, because that's when your subconscious brain is being imprinted the most. So that's really when like giving children the opportunity to learn and understand things in a new way that none of us did would be so much more beneficial for like a new generation of people that are so much more accepting and kind and like understanding. So I mean, I love to hear stories like that.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think it really is. And, we need to keep advocating, don't we? Because there are some scary things going on in the world too, as well as some really positive steps. So it just shows, doesn't it? Like I remember even some of my family members saying, you don't even need pride anymore, like everyone's treated the same now, aren't they? Do you still need pride? And it's like, yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's always such a funny one to me, because I'm like, even if we got to the point where everyone was treated the same and like there is true equality, why would not continuing to celebrate the fact that we overcame that as a species and a human race, like why would we not want to continue to do that? Like we still celebrate things annually because they're wonderful things that happened in the past,
Yeah.
so why wouldn't we continue to celebrate the liberation of people and freedom and pride? Like, so even if we did, why would people want to cancel that? It's such a great thing.
That's a good argument. I need
Yeah.
a little feeling on my shoulder anytime I get comments like that.
Yeah, yeah, why not?
Yeah, yeah, I like that. I like that. So yeah, so I mean, your voice is amazing, both, before and after transitioning. I think there's like more magic to your voice, obviously, as Dylan, because it you can just feel sort of that you feel more comfortable and that it's you.
Mm,
And yeah, I just think the notes that you're hitting, I think it flows like really beautifully.
thank you.
Listening to you now, I hadn't listened to you. I actually listened to you as Dylan first and then Lottie after because I didn't.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I didn't know that. So it was actually quite nice to do it that way, because
Mm,
not knowing your former self and then learning about your former self before now was,
mm,
I did it backwards.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, I think that's a nicer way to do it. So yeah, when you got to that sort of point of, finding that you still had your voice, you could still really be, well, authentically, you could be yourself, but bring the old elements of yourself with you.
Mhm.
Where did it go from there?
Well, since that idea of like maybe I could make some art where I use my former self and myself now, it kind of it started as one thing that I thought I would try. So like and it happened not accidentally, because there was part of me that thought this would be a very cool thing to do if I could maintain this in the future, but there wasn't a plan to make it so fundamentally part of my project. So it was kind of like, okay, well, I'll find a piece of old footage or old video, and it would just be cool to see side by side what my voice sounded like then and what it sounds like now. Like anyone with a before and after picture, like someone losing weight or someone getting fit or muscles, it's just nice to see growth.
Yeah.
So I started to do it with some old projects, and the more I played it to people close to me, like my best friends and my parents, they were like, "This is absolutely magical. Like this is like watching something like magic, and it's so inspirational. You should do more with these." And as I started to share them, I have now just sort of connected with people all over the world, from just old footage, new footage side by side, because it just resonates with people in a way, because it is like art, like it's visually and audio like stimulating. I think it
And it
moves
hits you.
people. Yeah,
Yeah,
like, I could
it's
sit here all day and tell your audience about it. Like, it's really cool. You should go see it. And you might be like, oh, interesting concept. But until you see it, that like
mhm.
that's when it really like connects with you on a deeper level. And I think
Yeah,
it kind of removes the prejudice that a lot of people have around like someone being trans and going through that journey, because they see for the first time that it's not about like trickery or foolery, or like, you know, you're unhappy because you can't find satisfaction in your life, so you're trying this new thing out. It's not like that. It's like a genuine experience.
yeah.
So now I'm working on creating more and more of that stuff. Like I just found an old version of me singing Coldplay's Yellow
Okay.
in 2019. I shot it on a rooftop in my old house,
Oh,
and
cool.
I went back to the same rooftop with my friend a couple weeks ago, and we reshot a version. So it's 8 years apart, me
Wow.
singing Yellow by Coldplay with all the harmonies and stuff, cut them together, and I've shared it on YouTube. And
Oh, okay.
yeah, I shared it on YouTube, and like overnight it went to like 80,000 views, and I wasn't expecting that at all. And it's now like just under 300,000 views. And the best thing about it really is me reading the comments, and it's just people who either are gender curious themselves, going, wow, this is giving me the freedom to like you said, experiment and try on the clothes and see how I feel.
That word, gender curious, like to have just simple language like that
Yeah.
is really useful.
Yeah, exactly. So it's either full of people like that, or it's full of people who know someone that's trans and is like, oh wow, I think I understand that person better now. Or
Yeah,
it's people who literally were kind of against the idea, who have stumbled upon it because they know Coldplay, and they're like mind blown. I now have a different look on this situation, and they it's almost like they're new to the fact of like, maybe there's trans people that can still embrace their past, because I personally feel like there is a lot of pressure from society for trans people to hide and dismiss their previous selves so that it's more palatable and understandable. Like,
yeah,
you hated your past self so much that you had to change, and that's why, because they're gone now, and it makes so much sense, you know? Whereas actually, like, I don't think that's a necessary thing for all trans people. And I don't actually think that all trans people feel that same way, but they feel like they have to, you know, to make it more understandable for other people.
yeah, yeah.
So it's loads of new people coming together, watching the same video but having multiple different experiences of it. And there was this guy in South Africa the other day who did a reaction video to my video. Someone had sent it to him, and he does these reaction videos, and he just sort of started crying by the end, and he was like, whoa, I didn't expect this to happen. I didn't know what I was going to watch, but it's moving me. I then watched that and reacted to that, and it made me cry again, because I was like, you know, we're moving people
And
around the world.
keep sending videos to each other crying.
The table tennis of just crying all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, so I mean that sort of brings us up to current day today, where like now I'm working on new music, as you know, just Dylan, new songs I'm writing. But anytime I find something that Lottie did that I enjoy, I will try and make it into some kind of art to keep spilling that narrative that like it's okay to embrace your past self, and like there's magic to be made there, and it's fun, and we're all ever changing beings, and like every version of you is lovable and okay.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good, like lovely way of putting it. So when you go and do your talks, you're doing these in schools, you're where was the other sort of settings that you're going to?
Yeah, so I work a lot in schools or like corporate settings, so in businesses, companies.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the sort of reaction that you get? Like I'm interested in schools in particular, like
Yeah.
what sort of reaction are you getting from the students?
So when I work with schools, it's usually secondary schools, to deliver that specific talk, because it's broken down into parts of like, it depends on the school, but often we'll go in with the idea that we haven't told them anything about me, and that I'm just a guest speaker that's going to talk about authenticity. So the
Yeah.
kids sort of come in knowing that maybe I'm a musician because there's a guitar on stage, and they're like, okay, that's a bit cool. And then it begins with like, it basically talk about all the ways in which we might find ourselves hiding in our lives, but we don't know that we're hiding. and then talk about like all the psychosocial reasons that happens, how we can not do that. And then I talk about my own journey, and I show
Yeah.
pictures of me as a kid and growing up, and then you can see like the cogs turning in people's minds, because they're like, oh my god, like I can see where this is going, because this is a picture of this guy in a dress at 5 years old. And
Yeah.
then when it happens, it's like, I love doing it that way, because in a lot of the schools that I've worked with, a lot of them have been like sort of like private and international schools, and often without like putting a blanket, there might come with like a particular idea or judgment, because there's a lot of different like cultures and religions in these schools as well, with like, if you were to already tell them who I am, they might have a preconceived idea about that. Whereas doing it the way we do it, sometimes it's like they have already grown this rapport with me, and they like this guy on stage, and he's a musician, and he's worked with da 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 da, and then I tell them something like that, and then they have to question everything they've already just built around the thing, like, oh, but I was always told that trans people were weird, or I was always told that LGBTQ plus is wrong, but I already like this guy. So it sort of makes them like have to question themselves, which is sort of where we want people to be, because we want them to be more curious rather than judgmental.
Yeah.
It's really good. And then in the end, I then play the duet live on stage using my old self on a screen. So we'll sing it live together, and that's always quite impactful. And it's the same when I go into businesses, really. I mean, the school setting is great because those kids are at the age where they are learning for the first time, which is perfect. When I go into corporate, it's like those people are having to unlearn the things that they have already learned, which is still valuable, but it's like another layer of what we have to do, because we basically have to bring those people all the way back to their childhoods where they picked up these ideas in the first place, like why they have to hide the things they like and stuff. So, and I really wanted to find a way to communicate with the younger generation again in a way that was more accessible to them. And obviously me going in to do a keynote speech in a primary school isn't going to connect. However, what I decided to do was write a book. So I wrote a children's book, which I'll send to you for your little ones. It's called I Don't Want a Werewolf Sleeping on My Sofa. And it's basically telling a story in a playful rhyme about the wizard and a werewolf come to an unsuspecting family's house, and they're asking for a place to stay. And the family immediately find all the reasons why the werewolf can't stay. You know, he'll eat the family if the family come over, and we can't have a werewolf sleeping on the sofa, and his feet will hang over, and there's washing and hair and dishes, and he'll howl at the moon. All the reasons he can't stay. And then it turns out that, well, I won't ruin the whole surprise, but the werewolf isn't who you think the werewolf is, and the plans that they had were actually kind plans, and they were going to help and stuff around the house.
It sounds amazing. I love a wolf and I love a moon. So
great, that's perfect. I think you'll like the book, and it basically makes kids think, I judged that character before I even got to know them, and it basically tries to put distance between our thoughts that we're firing without thinking about them, and being curious about someone that we meet. And what I like about it is that it's not just applicable like in an LGBTQ plus setting, or like a religion or a race setting, but also for like people who are traveling geographically, you know, sort of like the refugee crisis. Like we think there's an us and them, but actually sometimes it's just people could be friends, we just haven't met them yet. You know, it's that kind of narrative of like, we can't assume we know anything about anyone, because we don't.
Yeah. And the way you explain things is so sort of, it's like it's therapeutic. Like I would assume you have some sort of I don't know, some sort of background in psychology or something, but you know, I'm sure you've had so much like input yourself. Like, have you, you know, taken your own learnings? It sounds like you potentially know a bit about nervous system stuff from a couple of things you've said.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so interested in psychology and like the human experience and how we relate to one another, and I've always been interested in that. But I've also done some like self work, like self therapy, and like I use like sort of like hypnosis techniques, like listening to like binaural beats to sort of like work back through like things that I've learned as a child. So it's always been like self stuff, and like journaling. I love a bit of journaling. Just studying the nervous system and like somatic, and like how we hide things and keep them in our bodies. But I mean, I've never had talk therapy or conversational therapy, but I'd be so interested to have it. Like, but from that perspective, like I'd love to learn more about therapy as well.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe we can have a separate conversation sometime
Okay.
about that. Because yeah, that's an area I want to support as well is so neurodivergence, but also LGBTQIA plus. But I want to be, like I said this to you before we spoke, that I want to feel like I'm better placed to help those from the trans community because I don't feel like I've had much exposure to people that are trans throughout my life. When I first sort of come out, I just automatically come out as a lesbian because that was the language that just I guess felt like was the easiest label to use at the time.
Yeah.
But I don't really feel comfortable using that label so much now. I prefer to use the word queer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think because, like you say, even if we're queer, we still don't have all of the knowledge and education around everyone else in our community. So, although I want to support members of my community, I want to be, accountable and learn more about people like yourself and people that are non-binary or asexual, and there's so much that comes into our community that we wouldn't know all of it. So
Yeah.
I'd like to learn more, but I'm also being compassionate with myself because I think initially, like I had some conversations with people and I think they were quite sort of shocked that I didn't know certain things and I felt so awful and I got really upset about it. And then I thought, well, do you know what? I can be compassionate with myself, but also be accountable so I can slowly start to learn. But I'm trying to learn so much about all these other areas. So I have to have like, I'm a mum, I'm a busy person.
Yeah.
You can't learn everything. And I think as someone who can get really hyper focused, I've got ADHD and want to know everything and be really hard on myself at times.
Mm.
I can find that hard, but yeah, trying to have a lot of self-compassion and think, okay, Jenna, you can learn about, you can have these types of conversations like now, bring it into your life in a way that's accessible for me and
Yeah.
realistic.
Yeah. You know what's really great about the way you're doing it too is
Yeah.
not only are you learning right now, but you're inviting all of your audience to learn at the same time as you, because you can see that like if you didn't know it, there's going to be out there people who also don't know that. So why don't we all learn at the same time, which I think is
Exactly.
pretty beautiful.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think it's nice for like, I know you were, as soon as I contacted you, you were just really open to being involved. And I think that's nice because I think some members of the community can be a bit like, you need to know everything, you need to get it all right. And, we mustn't offend each other and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't like it to feel like that. Like I have been nervous going to parent groups, sometimes queer parent groups, because I'm so scared that I'm gonna misgender their child or misgender
Yeah.
them, or
Yeah.
it can be quite a nerve-provoking sort of environment,
Yeah.
especially if you're someone that experiences anxiety and depression and stuff. So you're already putting pressure on yourself before you've even turned up to just take your child to a queer parent group.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
yeah,
it's good. We must, as people, like allow ourselves grace for those situations because no one
yeah,
knows everything about everyone else. And also, like to those people that sort of say, well, you should know everything because you sort of identify as queer. Like,
yeah,
I mean, at one point they didn't know those things, and I would argue that if I was to give them like a book about quantum physics, well, they should learn it all today. Like, you can't. We're all learning as we go. At one point, none of us knew how to read and write or anything. So, like,
yeah.
I do think there's it's almost like a naivety to that assumption that just because you might identify as queer, that therefore you know everything about it. Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a musician. I can't read music. But doesn't make me any less of quite a good musician. Like I can play,
Yeah,
I don't know how to read. So I mean, I think you're doing a very good job. So don't listen to those people.
thank you. Yeah. So no, that's my mission is to learn more and just be, in a better position to help them. But yeah, I think so. Yeah, having this conversation is really helpful. So thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm like very ADHD. The conversation could just go everywhere. But yeah, where were we? So you're going into schools. You're bringing out your documentary. You're going into corporate business places as well.
And yes, I'm a bit.
What's next? What's next for you?
So I think I'm going to work on a second book. So the first book I told you about is called I Don't Want a Werewolf Sleeping on My Sofa, sort of like age 4 to 8 in that like emotional intelligence sort of series. I want to
Yeah.
write a second book that I'm working on at the moment. It's called The Badger on the Bridge, and it's just about helping children remember to be in the moment that they're in, because there's beauty around us, and like often, so the characters that he's friends with, the badger is friends with this rabbit and a squirrel, and they're very busy all the time and they miss a lot of the beautiful things that are happening. So it's
Yeah.
trying to get people to remember that like beauty can be right in front of you and you might miss it,
Yeah.
because in this sort of like age of like tech and AI and doom scrolling, I mean, I can't imagine. I don't have children, and I can't imagine the kind of minefield it must feel like to know like what's enough to share, like what's too much, how much time on an iPad, and all those things. Like it must be really difficult to navigate. So
Yeah.
yeah, so there's that. I'm working on the second book, and this year I'm working on a project called 365, where I'm sharing a piece of content every single day on my social media, towards making my first physical album. So I've released a lot of music over the past years, but I've never released a physical album. So my
Okay.
target for this year would be to release an album on vinyl and CD by the end of the year, and I'm releasing one song a month on the way to doing that by the end of the year.
Okay.
I'm sort of allowing my audience to get involved, so I'm allowing them to choose the songs as we go. So I will play like 2 or 3 different songs in January, and they'll get to pick which one comes out. So
Oh,
yeah, I'm sort of building like a fun space of community for people that just feel like that's something that they might like to enjoy or watch or be part of. And by the end of the year, it will turn into 365 days of content and a physical album and a tour. So this is going to be quite fun.
I did see one of your videos, yeah, this morning actually. So
Okay.
did you post that this morning? I swear you're like, did you do a song this morning?
No, I did one last night though. So
Oh,
maybe,
okay, you must have posted that this morning.
yeah.
I was gonna say you had different clothes on.
I posted it last night, but sometimes the algorithm, changes when it shares stuff. So I posted something quite late last night. Maybe it's that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, but yeah, had a little listen with that. And then thought actually, yeah, I need to come and do this with you. Um, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting to watch some of your stuff actually. Yeah, you've got a lot of content out there, haven't you? And like you say, it's sort of it travels with you through your journey or the content from
Mm,
when you were Lottie to now being Dylan, and
yeah.
I'm excited for you. Yeah, I'm excited for what's gonna happen, with
Yeah.
your future, with the documentary. Like that's gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
Just watching the trailer.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. We've toured to a few different film festivals. So I went to America twice last year and some other countries sort of sharing the story. And it's always been really well received. Even in places that you might not expect. Like there was one, we went to Arkansas, which is a very red state in America. And although it's known for being sort of like a maybe a place again, like we will judge a whole place thinking trans people aren't welcome there, but
Yeah,
in this place that we went to, we actually won the documentary section of that film
wow.
festival because they were so moved by the story we were telling. And fortunately there was also like it was quite a liberal part of that state, but traveling to those places and seeing the need for like being visible in those spaces, because there were a few trans people that came to that, and I imagine living somewhere like that where there's a lot of rhetoric and a lot of rights are being taken away from those people, it can be like incredibly scary and daunting. So
Yeah.
trying to bring sort of like a positive light through this story is what we're trying to do. And we're hoping that it will be out later this year. We're hoping also to do like a Pride tour with it. So we might try and align with like some of the bigger UK prides to put on like a cinema night where we can screen it.
Bristol? Bristol?
Yeah, maybe Bristol or Bath or something. We can come down.
Bath? No, no.
Is Bristol the one?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you'll find more of a, I think our community would be in Bristol. Yeah, it's hard to say, isn't it? But I would.
Bristol.
Bristol's cool.
Yeah,
Bristol's a bit more like hippie
yeah,
and
you're right. You're right. I'm gonna just jot that down on my list of things to do. Bristol. But yeah, we can.
we're good people. We're good people here. I mean, I'm obviously from Plymouth, but yeah, I
Where you
can't
live?
imagine living anywhere else now.
You're Bristol.
I'm in Bristol. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. Okay, well there I must come.
Yeah. Yeah. Born and bred in Plymouth, moved to Bristol for uni and never left.
Yeah,
So
it's a lovely place. I like Bristol. I've played there before, and I've worked in studios there. It's nice. So maybe that's a good shout. So yeah, that's
yeah,
what I'm hoping to do with this year. So it's more any opportunities that I can to find, basically to kind of like bring some joy and energy and light to topics that I can kind of talk about. I like to do that. So when you
yeah,
offer me the opportunity to chat with you and your audience, like I do like taking those chances because
yeah,
like we were saying earlier, like it's, you know, you can read a book about a trans person, but speaking to someone who has a lived experience is different. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I tried to do with the perinatal OCD stuff as well, is to give that lived experience input.
mm,
Because yeah, like being a therapist, and then actually experiencing it. So being on the other side of the care rather than being this person supporting, I was the person receiving, and that I had a lot of pride. It was really difficult actually to accept the support, but yeah, I think there's so many gaps that I can support with now from just having that experience. And I think, it's the same for you. So obviously you've gone through like the hormone.
therapy.
Yeah, so like having that experience and talking to people before they go through that, because I'm sure that's a really, it's quite a scary thing to do. Although I don't know what feelings would you describe? I can't obviously speak for you. So what feelings do you just feel before you go through that?
Well, it was kind of there for me. There was a duality of it because I was nervous about the changing of my voice. But obviously with HRT, you get like a medley of different things that change, like your fat distribution changes and your voice changes, and also like your I mean, like more hair. It depends which kind of HRT you're on, but like there's lots of different changes that happen, and I was really excited about all of them. Apart from, I was just kind of apprehensive and nervous about the way voice was going to change because there
Yeah.
are you just can't tell, like you just don't know how it's going to affect that section of your body, and I was just really concerned that I wouldn't be able to sing. Like obviously I wasn't going to lose the ability to sing and enjoy singing. If I can speak, I can sing, but like there was like a tonal texture and quality that my voice had that people liked, and I made a career off that. So the idea of changing that was kind of disruptive, but I would say that overall it was very, very exciting, and it was almost like I couldn't believe that I finally was going to be able to make the changes that I'd always wanted to do. So it was very like freeing. uh, and what I didn't realize so much is that the journey would be like spiritual as well, like the way that I saw the world change and the way that people saw me change and the way that I was able to see myself changed a lot. So yeah, it was more overwhelming from a beautiful standpoint than just like the physical changes. But I mean, I've never actually thought about like offering some kind of opportunity to speak to people that are about to go through that as like someone who has lived experience and to speak to people. But I mean, maybe there's something there to be able to offer like a support network or something for people who are going
I
through it.
think I think is it yeah, I mean it can probably be just imagining if I were to ever consider I don't think I would, but if I were, like I think the things for me would be like once you start it, and this just shows I'm not ready to do anything like that, but can you reverse the effects if you were to then like, shit yourself and um want to go back to your previous self and think, actually, no, I'm all right, I'm all right.
Yeah, I mean, well, you can't reverse. Some of the effects are irreversible.
Mm.
You can stop taking hormones though, but anything you have done up until that point will kind of just stay where it is. So like I take So the hormones that I have is testosterone, and I use it as a gel, and I put on the gel every day the same way you would put on a moisturizer, which is really quite cool. I just implement it, and like I do my hair, do my face, and then put some gel on, and it's my testosterone. And I could stop taking it tomorrow, and I would, I'm not going to die, I'm going to live, but my body's inbuilt hormones would then kick back in and begin to work, and then they would be dominant. But I've got a little beard, and the hair follicles in my chin aren't going to disappear, so I would continue still to have facial hair. My voice has already dropped, so like the vocal cords have elongated and thickened, so my voice isn't going to change back. So there are lots of things that don't change back, but also like, for example, the body fat distribution will begin to redistribute itself, because estrogen and progesterone would then be like the foremost hormone. So like your body shifts again. So some things change and some things wouldn't. But
thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's the thing that I think, wow, myself would consider, but would think about even. But yeah, it's stuff like that, isn't it? That people just want this information, and it's not always freely available. And if you just start getting on Google and searching loads of stuff, you just end up in a bit of a rabbit hole, and not always a good one. So no, that's it'd be a really good idea to do like what you're doing now, but for people that maybe just a bit unsure. Maybe they know it's for them, but they're a bit unsure of what it's going to look like. And
you're right. Okay, that's food for thought, something to think about.
Well, thank you for sharing that with me anyway. So you haven't had any therapy? You've had no therapy?
I've had no therapy. Apart from the self-therapy stuff. So there's like an online course thing that I sort of subscribe to, and I'll work through like journal prompts that they have. So I guess it's like a type of therapy, but it's just sort of orchestrated by yourself.
Is it specifically for people that identify as trans, or for anyone?
No, it's actually not. I actually found it as when I was like really deep into like the orchestration of like the field of like I don't know, quantum, like, so like it started as like a manifestation thing, like how to bring in the things you want to see in your life, and how to use your thoughts to visualize scenarios so that they're more safe in your body to like find them in the real world. So it started as like more of a curious about manifestation, and it's a platform called To Be Magnetic, and it collaborates. It's really interesting. It collaborates like the idea of manifestation, but also working through blocks and the thing, like practical things that you can do, that like reasons in your life that are preventing you from achieving the things that you want.
Exactly. That's stuff I love. It sounds like stuff I'm very good at applying it to other people, but I think one of the things I've been quite honest about in my social media is trying to be more accountable for practicing what I preach. So I think, it's harder when you are a busy parent, but I know before children, it was like easier so like I did have an OCD episode before children, and it was so much easier then to work on myself and recover. I could go to I went to this Buddhist meditation, and, I was just able to sort of explore that more spiritual side without the pressure of knowing I was needed to care for them as well. And I think, since becoming a parent, it's been harder. And being neurodivergent as well, I definitely experienced burnout. So I've made, I've taken certain steps, like I've left the NHS. I'm trying to, do private practice and make it work for me on my terms. But it's a lot of grafting, I'm not going to lie. I'm just basically trying to practice what I preach a bit more in my personal life, and fitting that around the children in ways that I would tell other parents to, so trying to do that. And I think if that's what I'm telling other people to do, then I've got to do that too. And
for sure,
benefit from it, because it can be, if you're not looking after yourself, you can't look after other people. So
you need to make sure your cup is full, so that you can overflow into other people, because if it's not, you have nothing to give. Exactly.
And I don't know if you've read much about like leaking energy as well, like trying to learn more about that. And obviously you don't want to do that to people I'm supporting, so really trying to take time to to work on your own, work on yourself, and like you say, the blocks that you have as well, because as an OT, like I've done no courses in marketing. I'm not a natural, I don't like trying to sell myself. It
Yeah.
feels very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But that is the sort of mindset that I'm trying to, to get rid of those blocks, because
Yeah.
actually maybe I can be really good at marketing and
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
still be a good therapist. And, there's that uncomfortable aspect of when you work for yourself, you're also dealing with the payment side of things. So
Mhm.
that I wouldn't normally have to do that. That feels uncomfortable, and you feel like it's very therapeutic to be
Yeah.
talking about what someone's going to pay you as well.
Yeah. So many things to navigate. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, so the blocks, it comes in for anyone, but like especially for you when you're going through this whole identity process as well. If,
Mm.
like or anyone is learning about themselves all the time, but if you've transitioned, a completely transitioned gender, then
Mhm.
that's I don't know, I think that's amazing that you haven't, from like how you talk, that's amazing that you've not had any professional therapy. So I definitely want to look at this to be magnetic because
Have a little look.
you just seem so like, healthy minded and happy, and you just look, it feels like you're in such a good place, and to
Yeah.
know that you've done that yourself is actually amazing. So
Oh,
well
thank
done.
you. I really appreciate that. I actually would say a lot of that came from the description I gave you about like transitioning actually gave me more of like a spiritual perspective shift in my life than I knew it would. Because I
Yeah,
think if you had spoken to me in 2018 or 19 as Lots Holloway, I
yeah,
think you might have had a good chat and like some banter and it would have been fun, but I don't think you would have had that same opinion of me and that sort of like emotional depth, because a lot of what I did was either like deflective kind of banter or joke, or like it was just a bit more, I was a bit more self-centered, but not because I wanted everyone to look at me and like it was more like I was so self-centered because I was so worried about how people were perceiving me all the time, and it came across as like an arrogant thing when actually it was just because I was absolutely like shit scared that like someone was going to break through the cracks and see that I was actually like a broken person inside. So
I
like
don't think it's self-centered though. I think it sounds like you were masking who
yeah,
you wanted to be,
yeah,
and almost like people pleasing. Have you had a fawning? So you're just trying to
yeah,
be.
yeah,
It's the expect like society put these expectations on us, don't they? Like
yeah,
as your previous self, like being a woman, this is how you're supposed to be, and you
yeah,
need to be like this to be liked, and all that stuff. Like it's a lot to go through,
yeah,
and then to think like, well, I don't even identify as that, so how am I supposed to be? I don't
yes,
identify, where do I fit in then? Because I don't
yeah,
identify as that.
yeah,
And maybe I don't want to be a man in the sense that society sees a man either. Maybe I don't want to be really masculine and
mm,
like, or a ladies' man or whatever. Like, you know what I
mhm,
mean?
yeah,
I'm trans. Am I supposed to present in this certain masculine way? And
yeah.
uh, yeah,
And that there's like one way to be a woman and one way to be a man, and we need to fit those societal expectations of each. And it's
yeah,
those are the things that I think are most damaging, because it doesn't allow anyone to really try and be authentic, and that's when we end up with problems like we do now, with like the manosphere and the male loneliness epidemic and all those things. Is also because those people are perpetuating this structure that doesn't serve them either, because they are not allowed to like show their feelings. This is quite overgeneralizing, but those sorts of things, you can't show
yes,
your feelings, and it doesn't help anyone to be so rigid about the boxes that we have to be in and stay in. um
yeah,
I think, sorry, that's what I was trying to say. I think that's why it was that growth of like being a person and like basically bringing down all my own barriers to like build it back up again, but from like a genuine kind of foundational standpoint, that I now feel much more like chill and authentic and just
yeah.
genuine. It was a lot of like digging deep into like the psyche and like why we do certain things, and I learned a lot about myself. It was just very self-reflective, I think, at that time.
Yeah, because that is something I'm trying to explore as well. Like, is it beneficial for some to go through their past, or can you start more with so that I don't know if you know much about like the humanistic approach, which is more sort of the now and into the future rather than
Don't, but I'd love to. Sounds like
yeah. So less about your past. Because I think about this for myself, like I've had childhood trauma and grooming and stuff that I experienced, and it's like, okay, I carry that with me and it shows up in certain ways, but do I need to really dive into that and really live through all of that? Because the thing is, it happened, and is there like a part of me that can just accept that I was vulnerable at that time, I wasn't protected, things happened, it affects me a bit now, but here's how I can, show up for myself and my family now, and move forward with knowing that I've had those experiences rather than overly unpicking it and re-traumatizing myself. And just certain ways of sitting with things. There's a lot of different strategies that I'm just trying to work out what are the best ones to use, and particularly for queer and neurodivergent people. So that's where I'm at.
Exciting.
Yeah, so if you ever want to chat, if you ever want to be a guinea pig, and we'll see. Yeah, I think it's just really interesting to.
Me too. And if any of your audience are out there and they're thinking, oh, I want to have conversations like this, I would advise you all to hit up Jenna, because they've been amazing, and like they're just very, very accepting and open and chatty, and if you're thinking about talking to someone, hit them up.
Thank you.
Yeah, you should.
No, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, and don't forget to send me your address so I can get a book to your kids as well.
You stay, I'll go, show face for us both. I wanna please, so I'm walking on tiptoes. Tell you you're strong, but you think that I'm wrong. Know what you need, so I water your ego. And I bite my tongue, 'cause you always heal me wrong. I don't wanna have to laugh and hate, I don't wanna talk 'cause it only complicates. I don't wanna fight 'cause you won't communicate. Shouldn't have to ask you for flowers, never know what time you're coming home. I don't wanna sit all night beside the phone, even when you're here it's like I'm on my own. I shouldn't have to ask you for flowers. If I'm honest, no, we can't sustain this. I doubt you even remember my birthday. And every time we drink it, you fall apart. When I try to speak, you make it harder. It's going in circles, I'm running a replay. And I bite my tongue, 'cause you always hear me wrong. And I'm tired now, 'cause you always let me down. I don't wanna have to laugh and hate, I don't wanna talk 'cause it only complicates. I don't wanna fight 'cause you won't communicate. Shouldn't have to ask you for flowers, never know what time you're coming home. I don't wanna sit all night beside the phone, even when you're here it's like I'm on my own. I shouldn't have to ask you for flowers. I know you're tired, God knows that we tried it, no point in hiding. I know you wanna go, shouldn't have to ask you for flowers. I know you're tired, God knows we tried it, no point in hiding. I know you wanna go. I don't wanna have to love and hate, I don't wanna talk 'cause it only complicates. I don't wanna fight 'cause you won't communicate. Shouldn't have to ask you.